In the car, just before we pulled up to the estate, Tessa leaned in close, her breath tight with nerves. Please don't embarrass me. These people are way out of your league. I nodded, didn't say a word, just stared ahead at the massive limestone facade lit up like a museum exhibit, because I knew every stone in that place. My crews and I had brought it back from near ruin over the last 16 months. But in that moment, I was still the guy she had to coach. Quick note, before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? By the time Henry and I stepped into the library, I already knew Tessa was rattled. I also knew she wouldn't ask why. I'm 58. I run Keller Heritage Works out of a 3-bay concrete block shop behind an old grain warehouse in Lebanon, Pennsylvania. We are a structural and envelope firm. That means we stabilize, retrofit, and restore buildings most people have already written off. Stuff with history and rot. Stuff that doesn't give you second chances if you screw it up. My boots are worn. My truck's 15 years old. And most days I've got lime under my fingernails. Not exactly dinner party material, but we know what we're doing. Last year we grossed just over $4.1 million. That's not nothing. 3 municipal preservation awards. A decent piece in a regional trade mag about the courthouse retrofit we pulled off in Reading. No TV crews, no influencers. Just jobs that hold. I still climb scaffolding, still do the walkthroughs. I've got guys half my age who follow my lead because I never ask them to do anything I won't do myself. Tessa came into my life 4 years ago at a gala I almost skipped. Charity thing for historic districts. I'd helped on one of the projects. She worked accounts at a branding agency, all clean lines and glossy shoes. Said I was real. Said she loved how grounded I was. At first she bragged about my handy skills to her friends. Made a show out of my cooking, like I was some rustic novel. Then it shifted. Suddenly it was new jackets, better shoes. Don't say job site, say projects. At her events, I'd get a warning look if I started talking about foundation piers or delamination patterns. She'd squeeze my arm and whisper, "Broad strokes, babe." One night, I told a story about a blown lintel on a Victorian duplex in Philly. She didn't even look up from her phone, just muttered, "That's good, babe." She'd light up when I grilled for her coworkers, but drifted any time the talk turned toward what I actually do. And then there was her mother, Lorraine, always smiling, always calculating. "How's the little company?" she'd ask, head tilted like I was one of her charity projects. That woman could gut you with a compliment. I never fought it, didn't see the point. I figured they didn't have to get it. I knew what we were building. As long as the walls stood plumb and the invoices cleared, I could let it slide. But what they didn't get, what they refused to get, was the pressure, the stakes. When you walk into a structure that's got rotten beam pockets and a roof load 3 times what it should be, it's not cute. When freeze-thaw pops bricks like popcorn and city code throws you curveballs 6 months into a job, nobody in branding can save you. You show up. You solve it. You fix what others tear down. And that's what I kept doing. 15-hour days, Sunday site visits, skipping holidays, taking calls at midnight. I didn't just run the company, I held it. My crew stuck with me because I wasn't just the boss. I was next to them in the dust and the cold, hauling stone, fixing what broke. They saw the work. Tessa didn't. The Dalton dinner invite came 3 days later. Heavy cardstock, gold embossed lettering, private chef, 12 couples only. Tessa looked like she'd hit the lottery. She stood at the kitchen counter reading it out loud, slow, like each word confirmed something about her. Formal dinner, limited guest list, featuring leaders in preservation and redevelopment. She held it up like a trophy. "This is huge." I just nodded and poured coffee. She was already on her phone, flipping through my calendar and hers, firing off reminders to herself. Within the hour, the coaching started. "You need a haircut, and maybe try that blue tie I got you last Christmas." She paused, tilting her head. "Also, maybe don't say crew, say team. Feels more elevated." I said nothing. Later that night, she added, "Let's avoid trade talk, yeah? It's a dinner, not a contractor's lunch. Just let me steer the conversations." She smiled like it was helpful, like I should be grateful. Lorraine called twice that week. "Grant, you're representing both of you. Wear something that reads accomplished." Her tone made it sound like my normal self read janitor. I stood there holding the phone, staring at my hands. Nobody asked how my week had gone, which was fine. I didn't tell them we'd just flown in custom ceiling medallions for the Dalton Ballroom, or that we'd match the aggregate in the original plaster using historic samples, or how we found an unexpected duck chase that cut through the main beam pocket and had to brace the whole upper floor with 3 guys and a prayer while redesigning the mechanical path overnight. Tessa was focused on the dinner. The night before, she called a strategy meeting, sat on the couch with her iPad, flipping between social profiles and bios like she was studying for a test. Okay, Henry likes pedigree talk. I'll handle that. You just say you've worked on multiple historic commissions. Use collaborated, not oversaw. Got it? She looked at me like a coach checking for signs of brain damage. Got it. Don't bring up messy projects or old buildings collapsing. Say high-integrity restorations. We'll sit by the window. I'll open with the Chicago rehab, then pivot to the house. Just follow my lead. She tapped the bullet list on her screen like it was gospel. I could have said 1,000 things. About the 16 months I spent on that house. About the midnight calls with Henry when water came through the attic vent. About the emergency bracing after that nor'easter. About the day we found the original marble floor under layers of vinyl and decided to save it instead of covering it up like the designer wanted. But I didn't say any of it. I just looked at her, nodded, and said, okay. And right then, something shifted. Not anger, not pride, just a switch flipping. We stepped into the foyer and got hit with perfume and polished money. Voices bounced off limestone I'd repointed myself. I clocked the custom trim along the baseboards. My carpenter, Luis, fought to match those profiles by hand. Tessa leaned in. Shoulders back, she whispered, like she was adjusting a mannequin. Henry spotted me from across the room and lit up like Christmas morning. Wave big, broke from a conversation, and cut straight through the crowd. Grant, he boomed, shaking my hand like I just won something. You saved us 7 figures on the structure with those hidden steel spans. He looked around as heads turned. 7 figures. My ears got warm, but I didn't blink, just nodded once. He pulled me into the circle, introduced me to a developer looking to convert an old textile mill in York, then a foundation chair whose community theater had cracked bearing walls, then a banker who knew our courthouse retrofit and said, "You're the guy behind that vault ceiling detail, right?" Tessa hovered close, smiling too wide. Grant runs a boutique restoration shop. He's so hands-on. The banker ignored her. You taking on any new institutional work? Depends on timeline and scope, I said. The questions kept coming. Mortar ratios, tax credits, subgrade venting, load paths for retrofits. People leaned in when I talked. Tessa tried again. We've actually been thinking about expanding his brand, she said, like I was a candle company. Someone cut her off asking about shear strength and soft brick. Henry put a hand on my back. Library? We ducked into the back wing, past the columns I reinforced behind the paneling. He spread out audio system drawings on the table. I want to hang these without damaging the ceiling medallions. Thoughts? Non-invasive hangers, plaster mesh backer, low-profile wiring along the crown. He nodded, impressed. Exactly what I was hoping. We walked through repair options, acoustic needs, wireless signal drops through thick masonry. Easy talk. 2 people who'd built something real. Before I turned to leave, he handed me an envelope. Performance bonus, 14 weeks ahead of schedule. Your consultant said it couldn't be done. I opened it right there. 62 grand. I didn't say anything, just let the number settle in my chest. Back in the ballroom, I scanned for Tessa. Found her near the fireplace, clutching a champagne flute with a smile tight enough to crack porcelain. She spotted me and said to the woman next to her, "My husband's shop is very niche. He's passionate about old buildings." People still asked for my card. When the chef struggled to move a crate off a service cart, I stepped in out of habit, lifted it, set it down behind the curtain. Tessa hissed through her teeth. "Don't! You're not the help." I stared at her a second, put the crate back where it was, stepped away without a word. The rest of the night washed over me. Clinks, chatter, music, but I was already somewhere else. Driving home, she stared out the window like I wasn't in the car. I kept both hands on the wheel, felt older, heavier, but also lighter, like something inside me had finally stopped trying to explain itself. We sat in the driveway with the engine ticking like it was counting down. The house lights were off, porch dark, quiet enough to hear the radiator pop. Tessa turned toward me, jaw tight. "You humiliated me." I kept my hands on the wheel. "How?" You sprung Dalton on me, she said. You knew how important tonight was. I looked at her. I mentioned a landmark estate months ago. You said, "That's nice." "That's not the same," she snapped. You let him blindside me. I shook my head once. I didn't let anything happen. I did my job. She crossed her arms. You weaponized your work. You used it to upstage me. I felt something go still in my chest. You told me not to embarrass you. We got out of the car and went inside. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and silence. She dropped her purse on the counter hard. "It's your image," she said, pacing. "The truck, the boots, those plain suits. You don't look the part. If we're going to move up, you need polish." I leaned against the counter. "When was the last time you came to a job site?" She stopped pacing, didn't answer. "When was the last time you asked what we were solving?" I asked. She stared past me, lips pressed thin. That was enough. I went to the bedroom and pulled a duffel from the closet. Threw in jeans, shirts, socks. No system, just movement. Grabbed my toothbrush, phone charger. From the hall closet, I took my toolbox, the small one I keep ready. She stood in the doorway. "You're being dramatic." I zipped the bag and picked up my phone. Called Rick. He answered on the second ring. "What's up?" "I need a place for a bit." "Guest room's yours," he said. No questions. I hung up, slung the bag over my shoulder, toolbox in my hand. Walked toward the front door. On the porch, my phone buzzed. I saw it over Tessa's shoulder, Lorraine's name. The text preview lit up bright. "Stand firm." Tessa saw me see it and flipped the phone face down without a word. I set the toolbox down for a second. "I need space." She folded her arms again, chin lifted. "Are you leaving me for your buildings?" I picked up the box. "I'm leaving because I got tired of being managed." She opened her mouth like she had something ready. I didn't wait to hear it. Stepped off the porch and into the night. The drive to Rick's place took 20 minutes. No music, just road noise and my own breathing. When I pulled in, his porch light clicked on. He didn't come out. He knew better. I dropped my bag in the guest room, grabbed a beer from his fridge like I'd done 100 times before, and went out back. Sat on the steps, night air cool on my face, bottle cold in my hand. I took a long pull and let my shoulders drop. The next morning, the texts started. I didn't answer. Not a word. I turned off read receipts and got back to work. She showed up at my coffee place 2 days later, stood near the pickup counter, pretending to scroll her phone, then acted surprised when I walked in. Tried to smile like we were fine. "I was just in the area," she said. I nodded once. Walked past her and out the door with my coffee. My office manager, Kelsey, came into my trailer the next morning, jaw clenched. "Did you authorize anyone to request client records?" "No." She held up a note. "Someone called saying they were your spouse. Asked for contract values, receivables, bid logs." I stared at her. "What did you tell them?" She snorted. Hung up. Later that week, a former client texted, "Hey, heads up. Your wife asked what we paid on the mill project." Seemed off. I felt my jaw lock. Counted to 5 before I typed back, "Thanks. Appreciate the heads up." That night, I called my attorney, Denise Park. Told her what was happening. She sighed. "Grant, I was about to call you." Her lawyer filed a motion, claiming the firm is marital property. Says it grew thanks to her support. I laughed once, sharp and flat. "Support? She's trying to draw a direct line between your growth and her image work." I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. "Of course she is." Denise didn't blink. "Start documenting. Every call, every text, every time she shows up. Keep a dated log, screenshots, emails. Don't delete anything." I bought a notebook that night, not digital, old school. Started logging everything. Date, time, what she said, what she did. Every call, every accidental sighting. It felt dirty, but necessary, like taping your windows before a hurricane. Then the social posts started. Photos of her with some baby-faced developer named Kyle Romero. 20-something, gelled hair, tight shirts. They were at tours and lectures she used to roll her eyes at. Stone anchors and urban preservation. Adaptive use roundtable. Stuff she'd once called niche crap. Captions like, "Learning this space. Passion project energy. Preserving the future." I didn't comment, didn't message, just watched. Word got back that she was name-dropping me. Using the Dalton project to get meetings. Tossing out, "My husband restored this," like she was still part of the work. Then I heard from one of my junior estimators that Kyle had started sniffing around for bid ranges on the depot rehab we were chasing. Nothing direct, just casual questions, backdoor curiosity, too targeted to be coincidence. That's when the instinct kicked in. Teeth grit, blood warm, full body urge to bite back. But I didn't. I took a breath. Took two. And I reminded myself of the same thing I tell every foreman before we sign off a site. Do the work. Let the record show its own story. The ballroom at the Grand Monarch smelled like wood polish and catered ambition. Tables set with white linen. Glass trophies lined up like bait. I walked in with Rick beside me. No tie, sleeves rolled. He didn't pretend to be impressed. That's why I brought him. This was my crowd. Architects, engineers, inspectors, owners. People who knew what it took to hold up a building older than their grandfathers. I clocked Tessa the second we stepped in. She stood near the back wall, arm looped through Kyle Romero's, dressed like she still belonged in the conversation. She scanned the room like she wasn't sure who to smile at. Kyle looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. We sat up front, center left. No nameplates, but folks made room when they saw my badge. Program said Dalton Estate was up for top restoration. I didn't say much, just watched the stage and waited. The MC ran through lesser awards, energy upgrades, volunteer projects. Then she paused and read from a card. Our next category recognizes complex restorations that delivered both architectural fidelity and modern performance, under schedule, under budget. This year's winner, Keller Heritage Works, for the Dalton Estate. Applause hit like a warm slap. I stood steady. Rick clapped once, firm and slow. I walked up, took the crystal from the presenter. It was heavier than I thought. She leaned into the mic. Grant Keller, founder and lead on the project. I stepped forward, looked out at 100 faces, cleared my throat once. Some people told me not to embarrass them around successful folks, I said. Funny thing is, those folks were already calling me with questions. That was it. A couple chuckles, a cough that was clearly a laugh. Heads turned toward the back of the room. I didn't look there. I just nodded once and walked off stage. Later, near the coat check, Tessa cornered me. She stepped in fast, eyes bright with fury. That was petty, Grant. I looked past her at the glass doors. Was it untrue? You humiliated me in front of people I know, my people. Rick appeared without a word and stood beside me. Just his presence. That was enough. Tessa looked at him, then back at me. Congratulations, she said through clenched teeth, and walked off. I pulled my coat off the rack slow. Rick handed me the trophy like we were just grabbing leftovers. We didn't say much, walking to the truck. In the hallway near the elevators, Kyle caught up with me, alone. Sweaty palms, pale face. I just wanted to say, I'm out. I'm done. I stared at him. She's been pressing me for names, numbers, stuff about your depot bid. I didn't give her anything solid, I swear. My voice came out flat. You working with her? Not anymore. I didn't know what I was stepping into. I thought, she said. He rubbed the back of his neck. I'll sign something for your lawyer. I can list the calls, the texts, dates, whatever you need. He looked miserable. I exhaled. Good. Focus on doing good work. And pick better company next time. He nodded like a kid who got spared detention and backed into the elevator without another word. Rick and I walked to the truck in silence. I opened the door and clicked the seatbelt over the crystal trophy like it was a passenger. On the drive home, headlights rolled past. Nothing but road and engine hum between us. Back at the office the next morning, Denise called. Got everything compiled, she said. Kyle's affidavit, call logs, screenshots, client notes, neat and dated. I didn't have to ask if it was solid. She wouldn't have called otherwise. Hearing day came fast. Gray morning, cold as hell. I wore my cleanest boots and a button-up. Didn't shave. Tessa walked in with her attorney and a full face of makeup like it was a launch party. No eye contact, just straight ahead. Kyle wasn't there, but his statement sat in a binder on the table in front of Denise, highlighted and tabbed. Tessa's lawyer stood first, talked about emotional support, shared brand growth, marital effort contributing to asset appreciation, all said with the voice of someone who didn't believe a damn word of it, but was getting paid anyway. Denise waited, then stood up slow, opened the binder, and went to work like she was checking a punch list. Here's the timeline, she said. Dismissiveness during the marriage, followed by post-separation targeting of the company. Note the dates, coinciding with bids, awards, and business growth. She showed the judge photos of Tessa at tours she used to mock, played voicemail clips, presented emails where Tessa tried to get budgets, names, scope info from my clients. One from the mill job, one from the depot rehab. And then came the call log from Kelsey. Dates, times, pings from the office line. She ended with Kyle's signed affidavit. 3 pages of dates, texts, summaries of what she'd asked for, including direct references to trying to leverage old ties. The courtroom was quiet, just soft paper shuffling. The judge sat back, adjusted his glasses, and exhaled like he was sick of hearing the same story. Motion denied, with prejudice, he said, and I suggest counsel on the petitioner's side tread lightly if they're planning any more fishing expeditions. We're not here to litigate personal disappointment. That was it. I didn't look at her, just closed my binder and shook Denise's hand. Outside, the air felt different. Not warmer, not lighter, just real, like it belonged to me again. 6 weeks later, I signed the divorce papers. No claim on the company, the house went to her. I didn't fight it. I'd gutted half that place, rebuilt the bones, and still couldn't make it feel like home. I didn't want to walk through that front door again. Work didn't just recover, it surged. We landed the textile mill job, heavy timber frame, brick skin, steel stitch plates every 6 feet. My kind of project, tough, smart, full of history. Won the theater in Louisville next. Deep balcony cantilevers, acoustics nightmare. Then a riverfront hotel, plaster ceilings, Art Deco moldings, plus a whole new core drilled through 4 stories without disturbing the historic skin. I brought on 2 seasoned foremen from downstate, guys who'd worked iron and scaffold longer than I've owned a shop. Brought in a young engineer named Maya, sharp as hell, full of questions I'd liked answering. We outgrew the old shop, moved into a bigger space, a 1927 warehouse we'd restored last year. Old growth beams, polished concrete, mechanicals laid clean and proud across the ceiling. Original steel sash windows still held sunlight like stained glass. It felt like a place that earned its second life. I gave a talk at a state preservation conference that winter. Topic was how to retrofit without ruining character. Room packed, standing room only. I kept it plain, showed photos, gave numbers, told the truth. No branding, no polish, just the work. I slept better, ate better, didn't check my phone like it might explode. Learned how to enjoy a win without apologizing for it. About 6 months after the papers were final, Henry invited me to a working dinner for a waterfront revitalization project. Small group, long table, real ideas, not handshakes and flash. That's where I met Megan Pierce, structural engineer, calm voice, straight shooter. She listened more than she talked. When she did talk, it was about load paths, wind shear, compression values. I liked that. We started with a debate over lateral bracing in a Victorian warehouse. By the time dessert came, we were sketching out solutions on a cloth napkin. No big speeches, just good thinking. She started showing up to my sites without being asked. Wore steel toes, climbed scaffolding, asked smart questions and remembered the answers. I started stopping by her lab when I could. Watched her run tension tests on anchors I'd installed in buildings for 20 years. She had data. I had gut. We traded notes. It was easy. One morning, I ducked into a cafe near the courthouse job to grab a coffee. Tessa was there, alone, staring into a cup like it owed her something. She looked up and blinked. "You look good, Grant." I nodded. "Thanks." She hesitated. "You seeing anyone?" "Yeah." I didn't say more. She didn't push. She looked down at her cup, then back up. "I'm rebuilding." I believed her. "Good," I said, and I meant it. No heat left in me. No itch to gloat. That surprised me more than anything. Back at the truck, I checked my phone. Text from Megan. "How'd the peer meeting go?" "Dinner tonight?" I snapped a picture of a cracked lintel on my dash. "Tell you over burgers," I wrote. Started the engine. Halfway to the job site, it hit me. The best payback wasn't her losing. It wasn't the award, or the clean break, or the speech that got passed around industry blogs. It was this.